I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 141. This one's with Kelle Schwab, and we kind of talk about her pathway to art. If you haven't figured out, there's a theme over the last few months. But Kelle is great to talk to. Thank Hannah Minocchio for connecting the two of us. Super talented. Make sure you go to her website at kelleschwab.com, KelleSchwab.com. And of course, be sure to follow her on all the social. Looks like on Instagram, same @ handle. But yeah, I appreciate her for being on. I haven't asked for this in a while, but if you're listening to this right now, go on to your podcatcher of choice and give us 5 stars and write a nice review, please. We recently got a 1-star review, which is awesome. So now we have 1 1-star review and 1 2-star review. And I'm sure it's from me talking too much, which the show is called Ramblin' Man. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I appreciate giving us a 5-star review. Of course, nothing less. And I appreciate you listening. But I really appreciate Kelle for being on the podcast. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at @FeralGiant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode.
So I'd woke up. I'm not a morning person, and I sleep in a lot. And it was like a Saturday morning, and somebody is banging at my door. And normally I don't answer the door. But this morning, something was in me, and I just threw the door open. And it was 2 young men in short white sleeve button-up shirts with ties.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I just looked at them. I was like, oh, hell, here we go.
All right.
And I threw open the door. I was like, what can I help you boys with? And one of them was very excited, and one of them, I scared the hell out of him. And the one who's very excited was like, well, sir, we're here to spread the good word. I was like, I was like, I already read your book. I got it right back there. And I pointed at it on my shelf. And
nice.
And he was like, oh no, the other kid, the scared kid was like, you've read the Book of Mormon? I was like, I have.
Oh my gosh.
And he was just like, why? I was like, I read everything. I've read the Quran, I've read the Torah, I've read
that's cool. That's
all
so
of the
cool.
Any book on religion you can read, I've read it.
That's
including
cool.
I pointed at him and I said, including the Satanic Bible.
Yeah, right.
And the scared kid got a little bit more bug-eyed. And the excited kid was just like, well, today, if we can talk to you, I was like, nah. And he was like, but, and right as he said, but, the scared kid said, let's go.
That's awesome.
There is part of me that wish I would say, come on in, boys. Let's have a talk.
Yeah.
I got some Jack Daniels back here for you. Let's get y'all. Let's go.
I love that. I always wanted to read all the major religious texts and like compare them. I took a couple like religious studies, like world religion studies in college, and I was fascinated by it. And I was fascinated by the similarities and the differences and like, and I've argued, I love it when those Mormon boys, it's always boys, come to my house. I'm like, bring it in. Like,
Yeah.
I love arguing with them. And, I'm like, listen, faith is a beautiful thing. It is a human part of our biology. Faith is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I was like, but why I just don't understand. If I don't believe what you believe in, why do you think I'm going to hell? When like I can't wrap my head around that, and some of the stuff in every one of those books, there's some wicked, nasty stuff. Like, so to follow any of it blindly, I'm just like, oh, come on. Like, they all basically say live in love and don't judge your neighbor. Like, like judge your neighbor like you would yourself. And, why can't we just focus on that instead of all the weird little things that, support all kinds of nasty stuff?
Yeah, I did some research and I found that on the boulder that was put in front of the cave that Jesus was buried in, that tomb, it actually said live, laugh, love.
Oh.
Sorry. When you said live and love, immediately in my head I was like, live, laugh, love. Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I don't know back then how they got it to be in the cursive, like they.
Oh my God. Yeah, and like, what is it? The papyrus font.
Yeah. Oh God. Ugh. Yeah. Oh God. That's a good start.
I
know. Welcome to the shit show.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
So you're in Cleveland, right?
I live in Cleveland. Yeah.
So where are you originally from?
Well, I grew up mostly in Pennsylvania. I was born in New York, grew up mostly in Pennsylvania, then moved to the West Coast, mostly California, traveled all over the West Coast for around 10 years. And then moved back. I realized my nieces were growing up. My whole family's on the East Coast. So I moved back to the East Coast to be closer to family. And I landed in Cleveland.
Okay. New York and Pennsylvania, were you in like major cities or were you in kind of the more rural areas?
Yeah, well, I was born in Schenectady, which people often joke about Schenectady. It's like upper state New York. I don't know. I've only been back there once. Yeah. So I moved when I was like 3. Well, I didn't move. My parents moved when I was like 3.
No, you loaded up the truck.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, my parents, my dad found a 200-year-old farmhouse outside of State College, Pennsylvania, and moved down there and fixed it up from studs. Lived in like a sleeping bag for like a year before he moved my mom and 3 kids back down there to Pennsylvania. And it was out in kind of the country, but we were 5 miles outside of a little college town, which was State College. So it was kind of a mix of like rural, like farmland, and then like little liberal college town. So
well, I was amazed. So I've got friends in Jersey, and I drove up to visit with them. And when I drove back, I came back a different way, and I went through Pennsylvania, and I was amazed at how much central Pennsylvania looks like East Tennessee.
Yes,
it's very mountainous and green and gorgeous.
Yep.
Yeah, it really does look that way.
Yeah, I've spent time in just a couple cabins in like Eastern Tennessee, those beautiful hills and beautiful cabins.
Yeah.
And I was amazed too how much it looked like Pennsylvania.
So you go to California. Was that on your own or for college, or what took you there?
It was to finish college. So I started my first degree at Penn State, and I was studying sociology and philosophy. And at the time, everyone I was learning from and all the people we were studying were all old white men and very conservative, and all my teachers were too. And not there's anything wrong with that, but I felt like if I'm going to get a degree in sociology and philosophy, it needs to be a very balanced way of thinking. So I thought I should finish my degree at, like, in my thinking at the time, in the most liberal college in the country. And I looked around, there was a lot of really amazing liberal colleges, but I ended up at Berkeley. And I went out there with a backpack and $200.
Oh my God. And a dream.
Yeah, exactly. That type of thing. I went to San Francisco, and I stayed in a youth hostel. I was just so naive, I just stayed in a youth hostel, and then they were like, oh, you can only stay here for 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, that's no big deal. I'll find an apartment. Like young and dumb type of thing. And after 2 weeks, there's like a 1%, vacancy rate in San Francisco at the time. And I was walking through the Castro in San Francisco, and I walked in a bookstore, and I was just looking at like Airbnbs, like a book on Airbnbs.
Yeah.
And there was like a little blurb that these two women, they were partners. They lived in San Francisco along the beach, and they needed someone to like take care of their Airbnb for them. So I went to stay at the Airbnb, and they were like, "Well, we have an antique shop, like a vintage antique shop. If you live, you can live. If you work part-time at our antique shop, you can live in our basement." So I was like, "Okay, that's perfect." So I ended up moving in with them for 6 months, and then while I was waiting to get residency, because then Berkeley was way more affordable, which was 6 months, I started bartending, and I met a bunch of bike messengers. I ended up moving in with them, and then that was like the people I hung out with pretty much the whole time I was
Oh
in
my
San Francisco.
God.
Bike messengers, which I don't know the status of bike messengers. I know they're still around, but I don't know how many are needed these days. I should know that.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's a weird thing. I hadn't even thought about. I feel like still like in big cities, it's too
Mm-hmm.
quick. It's too quick. Like legal firms and stuff. It's gotta be still a
Mm-hmm.
huge thing. I
I
don't
would
know.
think, because I think some things have to be hard
Yeah.
copy.
Yeah.
Not every, there's a lot of legal, because I think a lot of their clients were legal firms. So I don't know. I don't know. But
I will say, if I were to move anywhere, San Francisco would probably be number one. I've been there, I think, 3 times, 4 times.
yeah.
First time was 2009, 2010,
Mhm.
where I
Mhm.
went out there. When I travel, I went for 10 days. Like
Yeah.
I don't mess around. And
Yeah, that's awesome.
it was, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's weird. Growing up in East Tennessee, it's very much a car city.
Mhm.
No, no well, we have public transport, but
Right.
I don't want to
Right.
have to walk a mile and a half to get to a bus stop in the
Right. Yeah.
99-degree heat, 100% humidity.
Yep.
No.
Hmm.
But San Francisco, New York, and even Chicago to a degree, I love being able to just drop in and not have to worry about driving or parking or any of that crap.
Yeah, the public transportation in those cities are just amazing.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's
Ha-
like really freeing to know you don't have to worry. You can just like pop on a bus here and
Yeah.
there, the subway or the BART, it's
Now
awesome.
I'm partly curious if the bookshop that I went to is the same one you're talking about. Because I
Oh,
went to a bookshop in the Castro
mhm.
that it was massive, had really high ceilings,
Okay.
and I bought I'll get around to that, but I bought this massive Andrew Wyeth book that's
Oh,
gotta be
nice. Oh, beautiful.
2.5 feet
Oh,
by, like, it's massive.
oh,
But
amazing.
when I was coming back, I just put all the books in my luggage.
Oh, that's awesome.
And when I went to put it on the weight thing, the guy looked at it and he was like, "Your bag is 100 pounds." And I was like, I bought a lot of books. And he was like, "All right, it's going to cost you extra to send this." I was like, is there anywhere for me to ship them?" And he's like, "Well,
Yeah.
you can go over there." And I was like, "How much is it?" I think it was like $75. I was like, that's going to be cheaper than trying to ship this crap back home. So
Yeah.
let's just do
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
so then he went to put it on the tray to go to the back, and he couldn't get it off of there. And I was like,
Oh,
"Can I get back there?" He's like, "Yeah." And I picked it up and put it on the thing.
oh
He's
my
like,
God, that's hilarious. Because you're 6'7". You're like, I'll take care of
I
this.
think, but he was a little guy, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I'm so sorry, dude. I'm so sorry." But
Hysterical.
yeah, the Andrew Wyeth book still sits on, and it was in the Castro because I remember that was the only time I'd went that far. Where I was
Right.
a little nervous about getting back because I was like, this was pre like cell phones, like
Yeah.
smartphones. So
Right.
I was just having to be like, I think I just wait here for
Yeah.
the tram or the bus to take me back.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay. Let's go backwards for a second. What did your folks do for a living? No, go
Yeah.
for it.
So my dad was an engineer,
Okay.
but he was also like, I don't know what you call it, like gentleman's farmer or a hobbyist.
Okay.
So he had like a shop and he worked on cars. He loved fixing up like old VW Bugs, and he was always like fixing up some kind of old car. And they had like 11 acres that they leased out to farmers, but they had about an acre of lawn, and he had like a little mini vineyard, and he had 4 gardens, and he leased gardens out to the neighbors, like people in the neighborhood who didn't have space to have a garden. He had turkeys at one point. We had a horse at one point. Like he just loved tinkering. He would put old computers together. Like he just loved to like kind of put all kinds of things together. So
Man.
the engineer brain, I guess.
Yeah. And also, well, and to decompress, I'm sure,
Right.
from the engineer work. Yeah.
Right.
But it also sounds like he lived in outside San Francisco, VW buses, vineyard. Like, what did your mom do for a living?
So my mom was, she worked for what they called it at the time. I don't know what it's called now, but it's called the Association for Retarded Citizens. And she was the director there, and she helped people who were mentally handicapped become independent. So learn how to live on their own and get jobs and support themselves and stuff like that.
I am sure they have changed that name since then.
I am sure they have. Although the last time I was in State College, I thought I drove by and I saw the sign. It was still the same name. And I was like, oh, they need to work on that.
Yeah. Although that is I'm trying to think. I try to stay up on terms and stuff, but that is one of those terms that I always say mentally challenged.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that is that right? I don't know. I'm trying to say the right thing, man. I'm just trying to.
I am too. I always want to speak in the most respectful way. And I know I mess up stuff all the time. I think, is it special needs, or is it mentally, I don't think you're supposed to say disabled anywhere, I don't, I totally am the same way. Like I want to say the right things. I'm just trying to be open and just say things and be like, if anyone knows a better way to say that, just tell me. I'm happy to work with that.
But I'm happy to still say some slurs like cracker ass cracker and white honky devil. That's my although Johnny Whitebread is a favorite of mine. It's like this Johnny Whitebread looking motherfucker over here. Yeah.
Johnny Whitebread. I feel like Tennessee has so many great sayings like that. I don't,
oh my God. So I actually have a document in my Dropbox that's all the nicknames people have given me over the years.
Oh, really?
Broach that I am a large man. That needs to be a drinking game on this. How long will it take for me to bring up that I'm a big dude?
Oh, right. Yeah. You're like, okay, everyone.
Yeah, I know. So here, I'll give you some. A hearty soul, HEARTY.
Okay.
Baby girl, GURL. Some random drunk dude gave me that one.
A baby girl?
Baby girl.
Okay.
Baby girl.
Baby girl.
Beard boy, big chief, big daddy, big delicious.
Oh, big delicious. That's awesome.
One that recently came up that I was like, how did it take this long, was Big Dog. Somebody told me, I was in Atlanta at Atlanta Breakfast Club, and the guy that sat us, he's like, how many you have today, Big Dog? And I was like,
Big Dog.
And he was like, all right, hold on. And then went away for me and came back. He's like, all right, follow me, Big Dog. I was like, kid, holy shit.
That's awesome. Nicknames are a beautiful thing. Like I love nicknames. I love giving nicknames. I love I don't know. Nicknames are just great.
Yeah, I'm trying to find somebody. Big and extra tall man was from a homeless dude in Cleveland. And I actually pulled out $5 and said, here, take this, because that's amazing.
Extra tall man.
Extra tall man. Jodylicious. That's another lovely one.
That's a good one. That one, that's a good
I'm trying to find, there are two that I got called back to back that were just like hilarious. I think it was Chief and Hoss. There they are, Chief and Hoss.
Oh, nice.
Those were back to back. And let's see
you get nicknames a lot? Is that what I'm hearing? Like,
oh, you ought to see this list. I wonder if I can share just it's insane. There's probably 35, 40 names on here.
Oh my gosh. I feel like that's a really good sign to it's a good sign that you have like a good soul. You're like good people, because if people feel comfortable to be like just giving you nicknames, I think it's a testament to you.
Well, so there's a guy behind me, neighbor Mike, which he doesn't live there anymore, that he always had a tall boy of beer in his hand. this redneck dude. And
Right.
he, after like 5 years of living here, I went back there and I was talking to him. He's like, man, I hate to ask this, but I'm gonna have to ask what your name is. I was like, what? And he was like, I know you told me, but you told me once and I've forgotten. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I was like, it's Jody. And he's like, Jody. Okay, I'll try to remember that. Hell, I've been calling you Andre to everybody over here.
Andre.
Andre the Giant. I was like, that is
Oh,
you, Mike. You are the best. I was like, I will gladly accept that, Andre the Giant.
and that's a good nickname.
That
I'm
is a good
That's
nickname.
amazing. Like, oh,
Uh, okay, so
great.
God, you're being interviewed, not me.
Okay.
Good. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I have a
Okay.
brother and a sister, and they're 10 and 11 years older than me.
Okay.
So kind of like brother and sister, but they're so much older that, I don't have
Easy.
like a lot of memories of them growing up. It's kind of like their aunt and uncle slash brother and sister.
Easy. My little sister's 11 and a half years younger than me.
Oh,
So when you say so much older, I'm like, let me pick out the white hairs out of my beard. Good Lord.
No, but I just, it's not like they were a sibling that was like 2 years
Oh,
different
yeah.
before, where I like have a lot of memories growing up with them, type of thing.
So you went into sociology, but were you into art as a kid? What, or in
Yeah,
sports, or what were you into as a kid?
yeah, like I was into art. I was really lucky. My grandmother was an oil painter.
Okay.
Amongst other things, her and my grandpa had a farm, and kind of like my dad, like they had cattle and pigs, and they did all kinds of stuff. She was also a philanthropist. My grandfather was a politician. They did all kinds of things, but she was also an oil painter. And the tradition, that's my mom's side of the family. The tradition on my mom's side of my family is that each of the grandkids would go spend a week or two with her in the summer, and she would teach them how to paint, which
Nice.
just, is just a really cool tradition in our family. So, my first painting, I was 3. So I'd been oil painting ever since I was a kid, and I was doing it through school. And then, I don't know, when I first went to college, I was like, I'm not going to be an artist. I don't know. I was just like, I'm not going to do that. I think, I don't know why. I was just like totally against it for some reason. So I wanted to pursue more like, I was just so into philosophy at the time, just pursuing more intellectual things. And then when I moved out to California, I was traveling around the West Coast. I just kind of had this epiphany. I was like, what am I doing? I'm an artist. Like I am an artist, and I was like, so I started like making art, and I was in some art shows, and I just had some kind of mind-blowing experiences. Like when someone, if you're a creative person and everyone's creative in some way, and you make something, and then it connects with someone else who you've never even talked to, it's like it's such a special experience. So
Yeah.
I kind of like the first time someone came up to me and was explaining to me how one of my paintings, like what it meant to them and how it touched them, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just such an amazing spiritual thing to have that connection with people that you don't even know. So then that's when I came back to the East Coast. I went back, got a second degree in design. So
Okay.
like, okay, I have to be a creative person.
Where did you go to school that time?
The Art Institute of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Well, I was researching at the time. I was like, okay, I've been traveling around, like doing art and traveling for like 10 years. And I was like, I can't live on ramen noodles anymore. It's a beautiful thing. I can't do it. So I was looking into grad school for either art or maybe like sociology or philosophy, to teach. But I was like, I have so many interests. And I was like, if I go to grad school for philosophy or sociology, that is all I'm going to do. That is 100%. I had to be one of those super focused people that is all you want to do. There's very few jobs in the country for that. And I was like, I have so many interests. So I started looking into art. And then I realized if I went into the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, I could transfer all my electives from my first degree. So I was able to graduate in like a year and a half. And I was like,
Awesome.
I just want to work, so
Yeah.
and so I tested out of all the kind of like painting and drawing classes because I was able to do all of that already. So I just basically took a lot of classes on like basically graphic design,
Okay.
all the programs and everything. So I got a degree in design. And then my first job right out of school was with American Greetings, which was in Cleveland. So that's why I
Okay.
moved to. Mhm.
I'm curious. Do you know about AIGA?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I was the communications director and then the president down here. And so
Wow.
I know half a dozen people in Pittsburgh who are all
Oh,
AIGA people. And I'm like, man, I wonder if you, I know Pittsburgh's a big city, but still it's graphic design in a town. So there may be a couple of those people that you know. In fact, I just did, I do a portfolio review every year for Carnegie Mellon.
oh, nice. Oh my gosh, I love that school.
Yeah.
That's originally where I wanted to go. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
want to go to Carnegie Mellon so bad. That's a
Well,
cool school.
yeah, one of my friends I met through there, Andrew Twigg, he is a professor there. And so I've
Okay.
gotten to do that for a few years and it's a lot of fun. And it's weird talking to those kids because they're just all like, I'm in data science. And I'm like,
Right.
what the fuck?
I
It's like,
know.
dude,
I
I,
know.
I draw pictures for a living and you're in data science. I was
Oh,
like,
I
Jesus,
know.
kid.
Yeah, the level of like different types of thinking that the
Yeah.
students have there is just mind blowing. It's awesome.
Uh, brother and sister, what do they do for a living? Are they in the creative fields at all or?
So my brother's an engineer, like my dad was, and my
Yeah.
sister is a fine artist.
Okay.
And she is, I don't know how she would like label herself, but she's an artist, and her and her husband at the time, he is a sushi chef, and they lived in New York City. She went to school at Tyler or Temple. I'm mixing it up which one, but it's a art school in Philly. And then she moved up to New York City where she met her husband, who's a sushi chef, and they always wanted to have like a farm. So they moved down near my parents in Pennsylvania and had a farm. And she was an artist, raised 3 kids, and
That's awesome.
yeah, and he's a sushi chef. So they were there.
Um, so your parents, when it came to you doing art, I know you said they sent you to your grandmother, but they did like encourage that in you.
They did. They
Yeah.
did. So that is like, I feel very fortunate because they always did nothing but encourage art.
Mhm.
I know a lot of like obviously like you being a creative person, I'm around a lot of creative people, and not everyone necessarily has like parents who encourage, you know, their kids to be creative, or they see them drawing and they're like, that's nice, but think about all this other stuff, like um they were always very supportive of being in the arts. So I'm very lucky for that, for sure.
Um, we've talked about fine art, but were you ever into like comic books or cartoons as
Oh,
a kid?
oh yeah, actually, I would say that's probably where I started. Like that's what I did mostly as a little kid, is I just drew out of comic books. I loved comic books. I drew out of comic books. I think some of the first drawings I did were little like comic strips, zine type stuff.
Okay.
I loved that. I loved character design. When I first went to design school, I thought about going into animation because I just think that would be the coolest thing. Um, but then I was like, oh my gosh, looking at like some of the folks I knew who were in animation, or like very loose acquaintances at like Pixar and Disney, like it's obviously all day on the computer. You know what I mean? It is all day. And obviously you really love it. And it's like, so that's 10, 12 hours a day on the computer. And I was like, oh, I can't like,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, oh, I should have gone in animation, but I don't think I could sit at the computer that long. I would go crazy.
My buddy Adam Kennedy and I joke a lot because he worked for Scripps Networks down here, and I worked for PetSafe and worked for the newspaper side of Scripps Networks, and we always laugh when we see these companies that they'll promote. They'll be like, "We have a gym here, and we have babysitting, and we have this." I was like, all that screams to us is, "You will never leave this building."
Oh, they know what they're doing
Yeah.
by advertising that.
Yeah.
Exactly what they're doing.
There was a business that started here and they were like, and we'll have all this there and we'll bring in food trucks. I was like, you never want people to leave.
Yeah,
And I was
absolutely.
like, oh God, sounds like death to me.
I know, yeah. I mean, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
I'm so interested to see how corporate world changes like post-COVID, with
Yeah.
so many people working from home and wanting to stay working from home, and just how like those big firms are good, those big creative firms are going to flex with people wanting to work from home.
There is, I used to have some connections that worked at WordPress, and they were saying this was pre-COVID, but everybody works at WordPress can essentially work wherever they want. So there was a woman who was living in the States, born and raised in the States. She was like, wait, I can live anywhere. She moved to Italy. I was like,
Oh,
that's what you do right there. That's what you do. You go
yes.
the hell away.
Yeah, I know. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I always had like a dream when I first went to design school. I just like had this vision of just having my laptop or iPad or whatever and just like traveling around the world and being able to just work from that. And I'm like, oh, this is like officially, I mean, you could have done that before, but now since COVID, it's really just opened up all those avenues to making that just completely possible anyway.
See, I feel like I am the opposite. When I travel, I travel. Like I don't use my phone for anything other than GPS and a camera or video.
That's awesome.
I do not answer emails. I shut everything off. And like I said, sometimes I'm gone for 10 days. I was like, whatever it is, this too shall pass. It does not matter. It does not matter at all.
It's so important. I think that's an important part of health. I mean, especially with all the research showing how like if you're online too much or on social media too much, how like it just like is affecting so much like depression, anxiety, especially with the younger generation. Like, like I'm the same way. Like my friends and family like all give me a hard time. Like I fully will not return texts for like 24 hours. I'm definitely not on social media as much as I should be as an independent, freelance artist, but like I don't want to. I mean, I love it for what it is. There's a lot of beauty in social media, a lot of ways that people connect and find other, people or their tribe or whatever that they want to connect with. But I have no interest in being on it all the time, especially when you travel. It's such an important time to just completely break your brain away from everything and cleanse it.
And I'll come back to it when you said the therapy thing, because something literally happened today that is hilarious, that it's the synchronicity of it. But I am also the person, the first time I went to New York, I wrote on a Post-it note 75 things to do while I was in New York. And I did 72 of those, or 70, somewhere around there, 70 or 72 of those things in 10 days. And I was just like, no, I want to go. Like, let's go. I want to go see FAO Schwartz and walk around and okay, cool. We're done with that. I want to go get New York style pizza. It's just like, I want to do as much of this as humanly possible.
Yeah, it's all about that experience.
Yeah.
That's like, it's what it's all about. That's what living is all about. I love that.
But as I've grown older and I've started taking people have gone along with me. I've had some friends like, I don't want to have any plans. I was like, that's great, but I need at least a little bit of bumpers because I don't want to feel like we just came and wasted our entire time here.
Yes, I totally get that. I've definitely done that. I love to travel, and I've definitely tried different approaches where I've traveled with people who want to plan every minute of the day. And like, you definitely need that flexibility. If you plan every minute of the day, you're going to miss out on the beauty of the spontaneity that can happen with the people and the space and the neighborhood or the city or the country or wherever you are. And then I've also traveled with people on the other range who just don't want to make any plans. And I've gone to more than one place in the world where I'm like, I left and someone was like, you mean you were wherever? You were in Brazil, a half hour from Agassiz Falls, and you didn't go to Agassiz Falls? And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know that was that, that type of thing. So yeah, it's all about like, make the plans, aim for them, but just keep that flexibility, like if it changes, it's okay.
Well, that's like my former boss. I have stayed in the worst hotels humanly possible. I've stayed in more than one hooker hotel. I've stayed in more than one hotel where I've had to wedge a chair under the door. And this is me, like, being afraid.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And I always told my boss, she was like, why are you doing it? My former boss, she's like, why are you doing this? I was like, because I'm not paying to hang out in a hotel room. I'm gone. Yeah. I need to sleep and shower, and I don't give a shit about anything else.
Yeah.
I'm out. And a group of friends and I, We went to Savannah last late summer. It was holy hell, it was hot.
Oh, wow.
And I am the kind of guy that I did all the research beforehand. I was like, here's a Yelp collection
I
with
love it.
food, coffee, beer,
I love it.
all this stuff we can do.
I
And
love it.
we would get up in the morning. I was like, all right, we'd have coffee and we'd lay around for a second. And then I'd be like, all right, I'm hungry. Let's go. Because I have to consume according to the USDA, I'm supposed to consume 4,700 calories in a day to maintain. Good Lord, this is just becoming the big man pocket. Good, I gotta stop talking about that.
I love it though.
But I was just like,
People
hey,
would
I'm
love
gonna.
to have that. So there's so many people would be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, please, I would love to be able to,
There were times during that trip I told everybody I was with, I was like, there's going to be a point where I'm going to start getting angry. I was like, so we need to go. I was like, yeah, because I need to eat. And there was even a couple of times where I got really just quiet and just like, I'm going to start fucking punching people.
Oh my
'cause
God,
I haven't ate. I'm dying.
I
Like,
love it. See, that's why I travel with travel bars or trail mix. Because if you
okay.
get to the point where you're like about to get angry at everyone around you, you just like eat some trail mix and you're like, you can last another whatever 20 minutes, couple hours,
Oh
whatever.
my God. Whereas I'm eating mega hamburgers, just shoveling in meat. Just let's go. But yeah, it was also like two of the people, they were like, they didn't give a shit. They would have just hung out in the Airbnb we were in the whole time if it was okay. But it was funny because it hit a point where one of the other people, it was two single women, me, and a couple.
Uh-huh.
A guy and a girl. And there was one night where the guy was just like, I'm done peopling. So he just fucked off into the bedroom and didn't say anything. And then his wife came out and was sitting next to me, and we were talking about food. And the two single women, I'm sure they will not listen to this, but I will make fun of them. Aaron Donovan and Marie Blaha. They were
I love it.
farting around on their phones. And I'm sitting there, I was like, man, I'm getting hungry, man. It's getting on like 8 o'clock and we haven't ate shit. Let's go. And then all of a sudden, Amy Kennedy, Adam Kennedy, I'm going to name everybody. Amy turned to me and grabbed me and said, I need food like right now. I was like, we're on. And I looked at Aaron and Marie. I was like, get your damn shoes on. We're out. Let's go. And I just marched us to go get pizza. We went to one place and the line was too long. And I was like, oh, I spotted another pizza joint around the corner. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, we're not going to mess around with this.
Yeah.
But I do like the, go with the flow, whatever. But it's also, I don't know.
You gotta have the right balance. You gotta have the right balance. Like
Yeah.
you do your research, have your plans, aim for it, but then leave some flexibility if something else comes up. Like head to the food trucks, but like if you stumble on some people and you're talking to them and they're like, oh my God, no, go to this whatever place.
Well, it was one of the times I was in San Francisco, I walked from my hotel to Haight-Ashbury, which was a lot longer of a walk than I thought it would be.
Yeah, you can walk so much there though.
But yeah, I was walking around it and it was just like, no, like this early day and afternoon is all Haight-Ashbury. I don't know. I know there's a Tower Records there that I would like to check out or some record shop. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'll do that. And then I walked amongst the gardens and the museum and all that stuff.
It's so cool. But
okay.
Yeah, I love that though. Like travel, I love traveling. And like, I have to say though, at the same time, like there's been multiple trips that I've gone on that it ended up being like a complete, like you aim to do all these things that ends up being like a disaster. Like you get there and there's like a hurricane or something and you're in the hotel the whole time or like, but those can sometimes also end up being like the best trips, like I've taken more than one trip with a friend of mine. We used to go Nashville all the time. And we would go down there. We would road trip down there. And there was one time we went all the way down there. We made, we had all these plans, all these things we wanted to do. And we got there and like the first night, we never even left the hotel room. We were just like sitting there laughing, drinking, like just catching up with each other. Even though we had just driven 7 hours together, we didn't even get out of the hotel room the next day. And we were like, awesome. Why did we drive all the way down here to do this? But we had the best time, like it's
because back home you don't have everything yelling at you for your attention.
Right, you're right.
So yeah, you mentioned cabins. I can't tell you how many times I've spent a long weekend in a cabin where we did absolutely nothing but talk, read, listen to music,
Yeah.
and that's the best. Like
That's beautiful though. That's
yeah.
beautiful. Just time with people like you either know them well or don't know them well, and you just listening to music and talking. I mean, that's like literally some of the most beautiful stuff we can do
Yeah.
as humans,
Because I need to put the phone, there are certain things in my brain where it's like a phone off a hook. So
Yeah.
therapy, because I don't
Right.
forget.
Right.
So I'm
Right.
talking to a friend here who is communications director for the city. We're talking about an event and PR and all this stuff. And I run a group called Social Media Knox. So 95% of what I do now is like social media, digital marketing, SEO,
Oh,
web design, all
oh,
that
you're
stuff.
deep in it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
But she and I were talking. I was like, hey, social media Knox, we got some things planned. I'd like to talk about AI and social media and
Oh
marketing because
yeah,
that's
everything
becoming a
going
thing.
on with AI right now is insane.
And then she said, can you get a therapist that specializes in people who have to look at social media all day? I was like, holy shit,
Ooh, that's a
yes.
good one.
There's a guy I interviewed who's a therapist. I'm like, I need to email him and be like, hey man, would you mind coming and talking about like ways people can decompress or whatever?
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. So wait, are you gonna have him, like, is he gonna be part of, are you gonna interview him as part of this social stuff that you're
So
managing?
social media Knox, we meet once a month, and it's like I had speakers who would present on like how to do video better for social media,
Sure, yeah.
like top 5 ways to do video. But then I've just switched to where I deep dive on a topic like email, and I'll just research the hell out of what's going on with email right now, and I'll present that, and then we go around and everybody talks about how they deal with email.
Oh, that's so
So
cool.
and then the next month we do a what are you working on, and people talk about what they're working on, and we see if there's any way we can help.
Oh, that's really
So
cool.
the therapy one, I would probably have him come and be more of like a presenter or speaker, and then be
Yeah,
like, if anybody has questions for him,
yeah.
like
So
that's
cool. I mean, that's
yeah,
what we need now more than
yeah,
almost anything is like
yeah,
someone to help you like manage the social media, especially again with the younger generation who've just
yeah,
grown up with it since day one. And oh, that's great. That's
yeah.
really cool. That's
We'll
really
see. It's still gonna happen. It's just a good idea. But
oh,
that was
of
funny
course.
when you mentioned therapy. I was like, oh crap, that's twice in one day.
Yes. Yeah, it's important. It's
Okay.
important.
So now we're going to go back to you. Good sweet Lord. This is sometimes how this goes. Uh, do you remember the first piece or artist that made you kind of stand up and take notice?
First artist. Um, well, the first thing that came to mind, I know there's so many artists, but I think the first thing that came to mind, it was actually a comic book. It was called Oink. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but like it was, for me, it was the first comic book I ever saw where each page was an oil painting, like a beautiful,
Really?
brilliant oil painting. So I think Oink was only 3 comic books. And they weren't like, they weren't graphic novels. They were like the classic
Huh.
book, like not very big, but it was
Yeah.
beautiful. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like just something about marrying kind of like the formal traditionalness of what oil painting is, like oil painting and figurative or like portraiture, and like something with like comic books, like for which to me was like kind of mixing kind of the modern and the traditional, which I thought was really cool. Like a
I,
modern subversive kind of take on something that's traditional, which I thought
I'm
was
I'm gonna guess you mean Oink, the British comic book magazine,
I
because there's another one called Oink that it's literally Oink Blood and Circus, Oink Heaven's Butcher, like, and it looks like this crazy horror comic
it might
book.
be Heaven's Butcher. It was like
Oh, really?
it was very violent.
Oh,
It was
okay.
very like a very
Yeah.
classic violent bloody comic book type thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm
1995.
Yeah, that's
There.
exactly, yep,
That's
1995.
that's three
Yeah,
issues. So there was a. Oh, okay. That was the first one. Then there was. I'm looking on some website. There was another one called Blood and Circus. That was okay. There was also a British
oh yeah, this is
com,
it.
yeah, comic
Yeah,
book magazine called Oink.
And John Mueller. I don't know how to pronounce the name.
Okay.
John Mueller. Yep, that was the
This
one.
is crazy.
Yeah, it was so cool when I found it. I was just like, this is just unbelievable.
I can't believe. So I am a kitchen sink. Holy crap. That's it. Okay. So
Mhm.
my dad was in the service and they gave them comic books and it was like the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
So I grew up reading his old Spider-Man comic books.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
so when the comic books boom happened in the late 80s, I was collecting books and then I got back into it in like the mid to late 90s. And then I've gotten back into I just move stuff from one room to the other. I've got like 50 long boxes of comics.
Oh God, I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just have like a stack like this of, oh, I'm sure those three oinks are in that stack of. I've moved so many times. I have all these boxes. I don't know if you've moved a lot, but I have all these boxes filled with stuff.
I
And
will say kitchen sink was a very independent one. Those might actually be worth a lot of
oh,
money.
right. I know. I've always wondered. I'm like, I should go get these priced out and see how much all these comic books are worth.
Here, I'm curious. I'm gonna eBay it, and I'll give you homework on this one. There is
Okay.
there is a comic series, my favorite comic series of all time. It's 4 issues, and it's called Superman for All Seasons.
Oh, okay. I don't.
And it is it's one of the best stories. And I've often said, like, if they just made it into a movie, it would make tons of money because it's just a
Excellent.
beautiful story.
Yeah.
But uh instead of traditional comic coloring, they did watercolors.
Oh, I love it. I
This
just
guy
that not
Bjorn,
traditional.
yeah, Bjorn Hansen, I think was his name, that
Oh.
he did this watercolor stuff. But yeah, Superman for All Seasons.
Oh, that's cool. So is that like I mean, I like comic books. I have a lot of friends who are really into comic books. So they,
Yeah,
to them, I don't know anything about comic books. So I will
yeah.
very openly say I don't know a lot about comic books, but I love them when I'm like looking at them. But so is that Superman 4 series? Is that kind of like, because I've always heard that the original Batman series was like so dark and he was kind of insane and really dark. Was it like a different take on what like someone would think of Superman? No, not like that.
No, I'm laughing at the Batman because originally, no, it was all comic booky and funny. Now in the 70s and the 80s, he got more dark and menacing. And there's
Uh,
actually a book called Arkham Asylum that it's painted.
yeah.
That it's by this guy Dave McKeon who did, if you know the Sandman series, he did all
Yes. That
Sandman
was my
cover.
other favorite comic books was
So he
Sam.
did all the covers for Sandman. He did a book called Arkham Asylum that is it's amazing. Just the art on it.
Sounds familiar.
Superman for All Seasons. I've bought trades of it for anybody who has a kid. I buy a copy of it for that kid because I'm like,
Mhm.
it's going to mean one thing to them when they're a kid reading it, but when they become an adult, it's almost like a Pixar film in
That's
that
amazing.
it works on 2 different levels, but
I
it's I don't know how to put it. It's just it's maybe the only comic book that's ever made me cry. Like
it was only four.
it's there's only 4 of them. But they're prestige format, so they're like 32 pages, but yeah, you can find the trade and it's like 10-12 bucks on Amazon. The Oink, it looks like they're not worth that much money.
Oh,
There's
okay.
some there's there's one through 3 worth. There's a bit you can get them for $30,
Okay.
but then you can also buy number 1 for $4. So
Right. Of
uh,
course. Yeah.
damn it, I was hoping I would have some.
Oh, I know that would have been amazing if you were
Yeah,
like, oh my God, they're worth like
yeah, these are so niche.
1.2
Yeah,
million dollars. And I would be like, you just changed my life.
yeah. I'm gonna pay off everything with these
Exactly.
3 crazy violent Oink comics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very violent. They were very violent.
yeah, yeah. I
No.
think it kind of goes back and forth on what's the. I can't tell you an art style that I like, and there's another guy. God, why am I going to blank on his name? He passed away. It's going to drive me nuts. I'm gonna have to Google it.
Yeah,
He did the Parker comic series.
okay.
Parker is an old dime store novel. Oh God, it's trying to give me Peter Parker.
I know
No,
that's where
no,
my mind when you
no.
said that.
So Parker is a character from these old books by Richard Stark there's been a couple movies made about his character, a few movies made about his character. He's like, it's like a film noir kind of thing. Darwin Cook. That's the guy's name.
Okay.
So Darwin Cook in these, you may like this as a graphic design person. The Parker books are all 2-color. So it's
Uh,
black and he picks a spot color to use.
that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. You
So
can't
they
go
look
wrong. Yeah.
really cool. And he did a book for DC called DC New Frontier, where it's all like retro 60s sci-fi art. That's really cool
Oh, that's
looking.
cool.
Yeah.
Sci-fi
Okay.
art. Oh, rad. I love it.
Good Lord. All right. Enough homework. Good God.
I know I have a lot of stuff I need to look up.
Yeah. So in studying graphic design, did that affect your art style at all?
Yeah. For sure, actually, now that you say that, because before I studied graphic design, I had mostly painted kind of in the style of my grandmother, which was like a lot of blending of colors, in oil paints. And then for sure, graphic design. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to answer this because right now I'm working on like developing a collection of women portraitures, and I'm doing like the face part in oil paints, but I'm like just using like one square brush to do like splats of solid color. So their faces almost look pixelated, not really, but I'm not really blending much. And then the shapes around the face are just flat color. So I would say that's definitely an influence by graphic design. So like a face that's done in oil paint, and then the hair is like one solid color, the body's one solid color, the background is one solid color.
Okay.
Mix the two, which is cool. And I was just finished a mural yesterday, and it was for like a bar, and it was like two beer mugs like cheering, and I made them like perfectly, I created the art on Procreate on my iPad, and the art was like very symmetrical, very straight line. And I'm like taping everything off and painting it on the wall, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this was definitely a graphic designer's approach to a mural. Like if I had made the line work looser, I would have been able to finish it in half the time. And I was like, okay, I need to figure this out going forward.
Oh my God. But I know that's good though, because when you're working on like center block or something, you have the grid.
Yes,
So it's a lot easier. I don't know.
Yes, for
Was
sure.
there so did you when you got your degree in design, did you work in design for a while and then slowly switch to more art? Or are you still kind of doing both a little bit?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was doing all graphic design. I worked at a small ad company, doing like advertising, stuff like that. And then when I went to American Greetings, I was doing graphic design, but American Greetings, which is a greeting card company in Cleveland, there were a lot of illustrators and animators. So when I went in there, I was like, okay, I need to learn as much as I can from this company. I want to work in like all the departments. And I worked with a lot of illustrators. And so I slowly started doing more and more illustration. And then I was like, wait, this is way more me than the graphic design end of things. And I love doing it. And then over COVID, I started like doing a lot more work outside of American Greetings. I loved American Greetings. It was a great job in a lot of ways, but I had been there for almost 15 years, as a designer and an art director, and I was getting really burnt out. And then COVID hit, and I was like, I just need to do my own thing. And when I first started, I was doing a lot of logos, and I'm doing like a little bit of interior design, but like logos and design. And then I started doing murals. I started getting back into the fine art, and then I realized, oh, I'm way more drawn to the more artistic side of design. Like, so I started shifting away from logos and design and moving more towards fine art and murals now. But that's kind of been like a slow shift over the last 2 years. So I'm
Okay.
shifting away from it. I don't think I answered your question though.
No, you did. You did. You totally did. Did you ever? So I didn't even think about this. Did you ever go to Weapons of Mass Creation Festival?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
so I went every year except for the first year.
Oh, right.
So that's how I met Hannah, is
Oh,
weapons. Yeah,
okay, yeah.
when it was in May Halls that year.
Yes, that's right. I remember I listened to one of your podcasts and you were talking about the first time you came down
Yeah.
and you were just like trying to find a place to eat and no one like
Yeah.
knew where to tell you to go and you were just like lost in the city. You're like, why isn't this more clear?
Yeah, and it was the first year I went would have been, I think the first year they had was 09 and the first year I went was in 2010.
Mhm.
But like 09, I remember talking to Jeff, the guy who created it, and he was like, "Oh, it was just like in one room, and it was for a
Yes.
few hours. Like it
Yep.
wasn't
Right.
anything like."
Yeah.
He was. I think he told me at one point, he's like, "You did not miss much." I was like, "All right, brother, that's fine."
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, I stayed at a hotel downtown, and that was before downtown started getting redeveloped and revitalized in 2010. And
Cool.
yeah, I kept walking, walked into a restaurant, and they're like, "We're closed." I was like, "It's Friday, Thursday night at 6 or Friday night at 6 p.m. and you're closed?" They're like, "Yeah." What the hell kind of hick ass town am I in?
I know. I felt the same way when I first moved to Cleveland. I was like, because I was kind of just moved there basically from California, because I was in California so long and I was in Pittsburgh for just a year and a half. And then I was in Cleveland. And I was just like, why isn't, I just had the mindset that everything's open 24 hours
Yeah.
or you can always get anything you need at any point. And I remember when I moved to Cleveland and I was like, wait,
Yeah.
why is all this stuff closed?
So it's one of my uncles. We were driving to Charlotte, and we had to drive through these back highway to get to Charlotte. And there was one point we drove through this town. He was like, "Hell, I think they roll the sidewalks up here at 8 o'clock," because it was just some one horse town. But
yeah,
I am not. I do not hesitate to rip on people. I grew up the only kid for 10 years, so my dad and uncles were just merciless.
Oh my God.
Picked on me. So
Yeah.
I went up to New York. A friend and I drove all the way to New York to see Sarah Bareilles in Waitress on Broadway.
Okay.
Because do you know Waitress? Have you ever seen the movie Waitress?
No, is that like a classic movie, I think?
No. It probably mid like 2005, 2010, somewhere around there. And then do you know Sarah Bareilles is the singer?
I'm like blanking, but I'm so bad with names.
Yeah.
I'm so bad. If I saw a picture,
And her first big song was Love Song. I'm sure if you heard it, you would know it, because it was a pretty big song. But she wrote the music for the Waitress musical. They turned it into a musical.
That's cool.
And the original person dropped out and Sarah joined. I am in love with Sarah. I know she has a fiance, or I don't care. I'm still in love with her.
I just love her so
I just love her. And it's but my friend and I, she loved the movie Waitress and liked Sarah Bareilles. And I was like, well, I love the movie Wait, I'll go. So we drove up to see it.
nice.
And my friend was like, the one thing is, I want to, when we get back from the theater, I want to order Chinese food delivered. Because that's always been a thing. She was like, I've always wanted, New York, it's 11 o'clock at night.
In every New York movie based in New York, someone's ordering Chinese. Yeah, for sure.
So we stayed in her cousin's apartment the time we were there. Her cousin and her husband were leaving town for the weekend, and we were able to stay in their place, thank God.
Yeah.
And we were on the Upper East Side, and we get back from the show, and it's about 11 p.m. And I go up to the front desk because they had a doorman. I was like, "Hey, do you have any menus?" And they're like, Why do you want menus?" I was like, "We want to order Chinese food in." Yeah. And they were like, "You can't do that. It's too late." And I was like, I'm in New York fucking. I just start going off. I'm in New York fucking city, and you're telling me I can get food and I could damn near make it to Knoxville, Tennessee, and still get food.
Right,
and
right.
You're telling me I can't do. And they're like, "No, I think there's a diner a couple blocks away that may be open." And I was like, "What the hell kind of town?
It doesn't make any sense.
What are y'all doing up here, man?"
Yeah, you're like just so confused.
Yeah, I'm like, hell, there's a place here, a Scottish pub that you can get full on like fish and chips at like 2:30 a.m. Like, what are you talking about, man? I can't get Chinese food at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night. Are you high?
I know. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's Why
Good
that's
Lord. All right. Enough of that. Good God. I'm very tired. So my brain is extra rambly tonight.
that's
I rec-
okay.
So a little behind the scenes, and anybody listening, you may have already heard this episode. I recorded with a guy here in town, and we did, I think, like 5.5 to 6 hours of podcasting last night.
Mm.
Like there was a point where I was like, we have to finish because it's after
You
midnight and I need to go to
6
bed.
hours your podcast yesterday? Is that what you're saying?
We did too. I interviewed him for mine, and then he interviewed me for his.
Oh my God, you guys went back to back.
Yeah. Although I will say, I don't know that he really. All right, Thomas. Sorry if you're listening to this. I don't think he really interviewed me because at that point I was in host mode, and I just kind of, as you can tell, took
You were
over.
just talking the whole time. He was like,
Well, I started on his art podcast. I started talking about gun control and shit. And I'm like,
I love it.
I went down the route, and I was like, I'm sorry, man. Do we need? He's like, nope. Here we go. Let's do this. It's
the beauty of
hilarious.
Though it's long form conversation, and that's part of it. Is you go on all these tangents, and like that's just.
Yeah, but his podcast was a little more focused. Like he actually had questions, and he didn't get to ask many of the questions. But
you were just talking about gun control.
Yeah, but he did say at the end, he was like, "Dude, if you ever want to do that again," I was like, "All right, then that was good." But all day, my brain has been bouncing all over the place. I'm just like, I'm so tired. And I'm so. We'll get back to you finally.
That's fine. That's
finally. Is there a media that you prefer?
A media, like
like oils or
media, yeah. Oils for sure. I love oils. But right now, because I've gotten back into murals, I did a lot of murals when I lived out west. And now I've gotten back into them the last couple of years, and I realized how much I love them. I just love painting really big. I love putting art in space that's totally accessible and approachable for anyone. It's free. So I love that about murals. And murals are water-based paint and oils are oil-based. So it's completely different. So I've been learning a lot last couple of years. I kind of was trying to approach mural paints kind of like oil paints, and I'm realizing more and more like how different they are. So now I'm trying to combine more water-based paints with my oil paintings, which like I said before, like I'm going to do like flat graphic, just like shapes and stuff kind of in the backgrounds around the portraits. But
am I remembering correctly, you and Hannah worked on that one that was in Little Italy, the one that was like way up, y'all had to get on scout. She took me to it. She showed me it. And I was like, I walked in there, I was like, damn it, I can't take a good photo in here, man. It's so tight, man.
Yeah, that's the challenge of that space. They need uplighting because it's this really, as you were in it, it's this really interesting alley. It's this really skinny alley that's open on the top, closed on the either side. And it's 3-story murals on skinny alleys and skinny walls on either side. So you have this really interesting light that comes down. And part of the reason that Little Italy wanted us to do a mural there is because a lot of people take photos in there because it's all like the light is very beautiful. A lot of people take wedding photos there. But for the mural, when we put it up there, since there's only down lighting, no up lighting, it creates like a shine, and it is hard to take. It's hard to take pictures there. And the owner hung a whole bunch of lights across it. So if you take a picture, it'll zoom in on the string lights instead of the view. So it's got some challenges. But yeah, Hannah and I worked on that together. And that was an aerosol mural. And I was excited to get back into using aerosols because I think that is a little bit more connected with my paintings because I can do blending and stuff like that. So
is Cleveland the city encouraging of murals? Or is it more businesses?
I feel like there's this kind of energy and vibe going on in Cleveland right now where there's kind of this, it feels like there's a little bit of an awakening with arts and murals in Cleveland right now. So it feels like more and more people are wanting murals. There was I think it was last summer, it's called the Powwow Festival. I'm missing the name. It's the Powwow murals, and they brought in a bunch of local mural artists and a bunch of other mural artists, and they put murals all over Midtown, which is a neighborhood in Cleveland. And and like significant, amazing murals. So I think they're trying to, and there's a local organization called Land Studio. They do a lot of public art and murals, and it just feels like they're really growing with the mural scene right
Okay.
now.
Okay. We have a few art groups here in town, Dogwood Arts and then the Arts and Culture Alliance, that they have funded a lot of murals
Yeah, that's
around
cool.
town. And we have two alleyways. Like we have the downtown area, but there's this place called Market Square where it's all like restaurants and stuff, and then this big open square.
Yeah.
And that they have farmers market every Saturday and all this stuff. But the alleyways behind the businesses are just covered in art. And
Yeah.
they help a lot of those nonprofits help fund some of that art to go up.
Yeah, I really want to, when I start getting back into murals, I really want, I'm just like slowly learning and meeting more of the mural artists in Cleveland, learning a little bit more about it. But I really think Cleveland would be great to have a lot more murals, you know,
Right.
especially like right now we have murals, but they're kind of just all over the place. You have to travel by car to get to them. I think we need like an entire block of murals in multiple spaces in Cleveland. And there's lots of case studies on that, like over the Rhine and Cincinnati in Ohio, from what I understand, was a bunch of artists. There was like a neighborhood that needed some love, you know, like it was a part of town that, you know, needed resources and attention. So some artists went and started putting up murals. And from what I understand, they put murals all over the place. And then, you know, businesses move in, shops move in, you know, and it creates like a space, and farmers markets like end up happening there. And then the people in the neighborhood get more resources. So I think that would be great for Cleveland to do
Okay.
something.
Kind of in that vein, what would you like to see more of in art or design or creativity in general? Is there something you would like to see more of?
More of in art, design, and creativity.
Anything under that art or creativity banner?
Yeah, I mean, more in art and creativity. I mean, I don't know. Right now, like I'm in the process of I guess where my brain is. I mean, I guess if I were to answer that, I would say more people doing more creative things, I think would be great. I feel like in our education system, they've just slowly pulled out the arts, they've pulled out
Yeah.
music, they pulled out, any physical activity, they've pulled out critical thinking. You know, there's just so much as our schools and our education system are so underfunded. So I think more people doing art just in general and being creative in any way, being encouraged to be creative in any way. And there's so many different ways you can be creative. You don't have to be a painter. You know, you could be a musician, you could be a woodworker, you could be a chef, you know, you could be a gardener, you can be creative in so many ways. But I think it's so healthy for people, you know, to get your hands on something and create something with your hands that you're proud of. I think, yeah, just more people being creative. I guess I would say that.
Okay. Is there anyone you'd like to work with other than Hannah again and again and again?
Yes, of course, always Hannah. Anyone I wanted to work with. I don't know. I think like right now I have this I was reading this. I think to me it would be like a group of people. I was thinking about this today. I was like, because I love making big murals, and I was like researching the other day what the largest murals in the world were. And it's not like completely clear. I think there's one in Illinois, and there's another one, I forget where it was, but I was also reading at the same time that only 2% of the sales of art around the world, I believe, although this should be fact checked, but only 2% are made by women. So I was like, and then I also was reading this.
That seems super low.
It's yeah,
because
and
because again, AIGA, it was like the trend was that the dominant people in design were actually women. Like they took up, it was a crazy high amount.
Yeah.
And I saw that
talking about fine art.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But yeah, you're totally right. Like that should be fact check. I think I heard on NPR, but like,
That's
and I
crazy.
definitely heard that before. The percentage of fine art sold worldwide that are by women artists is like very, very low.
Hmm.
And then I was also listening to a podcast, and this woman was saying that female artists generally don't paint really large scale. And it just got me thinking, and I'm like, what's the largest mural in the world? And then I was like, I should get a group of women together and make the largest mural in the world, and it's all women mural artists. I was
I
like,
got
that would be cool.
I got two places for you to do it.
Okay.
They've built two of those stupid Amazon distribution centers down here, and they're big and ugly. And the
Mhm,
minute they finished building them, I was
mhm.
like, mother, can we get a mural on the entire side of one? Because that is ugly as shit. Like,
Right, right,
and
right.
and Jeff has enough money
Yeah.
where he can fund, like, because it's like they're just these giant eyesores.
Yeah, that's so crazy that
I was
that
like,
is now
that's
the thing.
that's who should be putting up murals, is putting them on those.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's some nice big new flat walls. That would be amazing. I painted so many murals in really tricky
oh
areas,
God.
like with angles or bars in front of it or de decaying, walls. Nice big flat new walls.
So
Like,
there was one I was about to do that it was on the backside of a restaurant because he was wanting people to take photos there. And
Mhm.
it had like an in-wall air conditioning unit that was
Oh yeah,
dripping, like
right.
all that stuff. And God love him. And I was like, and it was like weird, like angles and cut off. I was like,
Yes. Yep.
I don't know what I would do here, but yeah, those Amazon, because they tore down the mall that I grew up going to and put up one of those stupid things, and
Yeah.
then immediately, and then they built another one in outlying county, Blount County, and
Mhm.
that thing, I can't remember how many stories high it is. It's like 15 stories high or something. Like it's probably damn near a mile long. Like it is massive.
God, that would be crazy if like the biggest kind of free, not free or available wall, but something like that, the biggest kind of like potential wall would be an Amazon distribution center.
Distribution center. Yeah. Yeah, the only problem with those is I worry about, who knows 10 years from now, are they just going to tear all those down?
Yeah,
Like,
probably there'll be some new type of Amazon thing going
yeah,
on. They won't need that building anymore.
but it was like the old mall. There was one point where their developer came in and was like, we want to close half of it and turn it into residential. I was like, oh my God, to be able to live in the mall, that
Oh,
I was like, because if you did that, I guarantee you could get some good restaurants in
I was gonna
there.
say that could be really cool.
And the thing I was saying, so Knoxville is designated as the maker city by Etsy.
Oh,
So
oh,
that's
really
a thing for us. So yeah, we have all these creatives and
cool.
makers here.
Oh,
And
that's so cool.
and I was like, well, hell, here's a good opportunity. You
Yeah.
have all these stores, divide them and have one that's just woodworking. And
Yes.
and have stalls where people could work on their, and then have one that was metal, and then you have like a massive storefront, like take the JC Penney or something,
Yeah.
and all the goods that those people make, have them for sale in there.
That'd be
Like,
amazing. Yeah, and you
uh,
could like rent space,
yeah,
do metalworking and
you
woodworking
you could have
and
artists have their studios in there and stuff.
that would be really cool.
But they
That would
tore it down and put up a damn Amazon distribution.
that's on distribution center. I know. I know. I
Okay,
think I was reading, isn't that like one of the biggest job creators for like rural
probably.
America is Amazon distribution centers? Like,
It's probably beating Walmart finally.
yeah, right. Yeah, I wonder. Yeah.
So that was a big thing down here, and I'm sure it is this way all over the country, is like people, how do you say this? People who are already safe and have means
Yeah.
complaining about Walmarts being put up in these outlying counties. And the
Yeah.
people in the outlying counties are like, holy hell, we finally have a job. And
Right.
all you have somebody in the city being like, well, they shouldn't do. And it's like the people in those small towns are like, that's how we're living, surviving, man.
All they have. That's all
Yeah.
the opportunity there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's their McDonald's.
Right.
Anyway, good Lord. Do you set goals or have a checklist?
Set goals. I definitely set goals, and the older I get, the more I realize I always have to be flexible with that. Set your goals and then, just make sure to be flexible about it. And for me, the most successful way to be goal setting is I have a friend of mine and we get together almost right after New Year's, and we do vision boards, but they're more like our business plan / vision boards for the year,
Mhm.
and figure out what we want to accomplish in that year. And we did it this year, and we were going to do it in one day. We spent like 3 days going over it. I was like, because we were friends and we were like catching up and everything, but I was like, I feel like if we really want to be like accountable with this, like, I mean, she is just like the most amazing, like hardcore businesswoman. Like accomplishes everything she puts her mind to. But I was like, I feel like we should check in like with each other quarterly and see how we're doing with our goal setting for the year,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of something I've done almost every year after New Year's. Around New Year's, I put together kind of a plan for the year. It's not like really a business plan, but just like what I want to accomplish. Um,
So good Lord, how can I say this without, I swear I'm not mansplaining or
oh
anything,
no, it's okay.
but can I give you an
I
idea?
can tell you're not. Yes,
Yeah.
please.
So when I turned 39, I made a list of 40 things I wanted to accomplish before I turned 40.
Oh,
And
oh,
and on that list were things that were crazy, like swinging for the fences, like did not seem attainable.
yes.
And I had a friend of mine who is a very cautious person say, "Why'd you put those things on there?
Uh-huh.
Because you probably weren't going to be able to." I was like, "Why the hell have a list if it doesn't have crazy shit on there?"
Yeah,
So
right.
that would be my thing to you is the next time you do it, add
That's
at least one or two, like, if
mhm.
this could happen.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
I
And
love
you
that.
and you don't feel bad about not accomplishing that goal because it was
Right.
something that's so crazy.
But I love that because even if you don't accomplish it, it's still putting this like fun vibe or this
Yeah.
like just open your mind and like be okay with like shooting for whatever you want, like
Yeah.
vibe on that whole
Yeah.
vision board or business plan, however you're looking at it. Like I love that. That's a good one.
Because you could do like, okay, what's the biggest mural you've done? Now double the width and the height and say, I want to do a mural that size. And
Right.
it's like, who knows? Like you could,
Yeah.
by putting it out there, you could get that opportunity. So
I know. I was thinking about that when I was thinking about it today. I was like, how cool would that be if I could like somehow organize the largest mural in the world and it's all women,
yeah.
it's because like not a lot of women make big art or more traditionally we're making or known for making big art, probably not because women didn't want to, because they didn't have access, for whatever reason. But yeah, I was like, wow. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, how do I get there? And I was like, I should probably start with just aiming for my largest
Yeah.
mural,
Yeah.
But
Well, hell, you may have already answered it. So let's say something not that you've mentioned before.
okay.
Do you know what you want to do in the next 10 years other than creating the largest mural in the world created by all women?
Which is like just yeah. The next 10 years. I mean, I would say so my goal for this year, as I've like I'm transitioning away from design and graphic design and focusing more on fine art and murals. My goal is to definitely create I feel like I'm in the bud stage of creating like a collection of art that like I'll really like and feel proud of. So I want to flush out that collection and feel good about it and have some art shows that I feel good about. And so I would say in 10 years, I would love if I could be creating art that, affords me to be having art shows, around the world and connecting with other artists around the world, like some, you know, just some, I don't know how to say it, but some shows that I feel really good about, like where I feel really good about the content. I feel really good about the people that are connecting with it. Not that have to feel good about the people connecting with it, but it's has some sort of meaning, you know, art that has some sort of meaning that I don't know how to say this, but like means something to people and helps them in some way, whether it's, you know, they feel more comfortable. I don't know, this is my goal for this year, is to kind of figure out kind of my my direction for this art collection, kind of what niche is it and what I want it to accomplish. So figuring that out, whether it helps women, like I'm focused on kind of women empowerment right now. Does it help women feel more empowered, or does it help like teenage girls feel more confident, or does it like lighten the load, or does it help, you know, women and or teenage girls like be okay with themselves being imperfect, you know, embracing themselves more, being okay with themselves, you know, something along those lines. So yeah,
Okay.
I would say having art that reaches a lot of people, that helps people in some way, which I don't know. I don't know what that is. I'm in process of figuring that out. So
I don't know that how to say this without sounding like an asshole.
yeah,
Also, that may not be for you to define.
right.
It
Absolutely.
it may just
Absolutely.
happen organically.
Right. I totally agree. Like I'm hesitant in the words I'm using, because I totally agree with you. Like
Yeah.
it may not have to be defined. It may not, I mean, it sounds like very naive and very almost silly to be like, I want to make art that helps people.
Right.
That's just a silly way to say it. But if it's, I don't know, that's what I'm aiming for. It's like working title, working words, and just like focus on that and flush it out and see where it takes me. And like you said, I totally realized it might take me in a completely different direction, but
Yeah.
at least that is aiming me in a direction, you know.
Okay. Are there any museums where you'd like to see your work hung, or any magazines where you'd like to see your work published?
I would say, okay, so my magazines, I love Bazaar is such a good one, and Juxtapose.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
those,
don't know. I'm looking up Bizarre to Bizarre because I don't know that one.
yeah, that's a great one. And Juxtapose, like I think Clutter is another one. If I don't know if I don't know if Clutter is still around, but those kind of magazines where there's a lot of art, but there's a
Oh,
subversive quality to it. There's a dark quality. There's a little bit of a twisted quality to the art.
you might have
The
to
art.
send me a link to Bizarre Bizarre because I looked up Bizarre Bizarre and I saw it and it looked like a porn mag.
Oh,
I was like,
well,
what in the
wait a minute. So I'm so bad. Everyone who knows me is always like laughing at how bad I am with words and names of
okay.
everything.
We cover the
Um,
worlds of alternative models, fetish, sex, fashion, extreme body modification. Hey, you know what? If you want to see your art in there, cool. It's what is it? There's a buddy of mine that said, "You do you, boo."
right.
My buddy, rest in peace. My buddy Brandon Gibson would say that to me all the time. I was like, "You realize we're two dudes, right?" And he's like, "I don't care.
Oh my
You do,
God, I
you
love
do
it.
you, boo."
Oh, Beautiful Bazaar. Sorry.
Beautiful,
God,
bizarre.
Beautiful Bazaar. Bazaar is an art trade show. I totally mixed it up. So
There it
Beautiful
is.
Bazaar is a really cool magazine.
Oh God.
Um, Juxtapose.
Oh, that's cool looking. Oh, I've
I,
seen this. Because
yeah, I would say
I recognize the square logo that they've got.
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yeah, that's a great. I love this magazine is just incredible. Just the way I just love how they curate the artists in there. That would be a dream of mine. I would say that is like one of my first dreams, is develop art that could be in Bazaar. High Fructose is another great magazine. I would love it
yeah.
on my in, and then Juxtapose. Like I would say those are three that are
Man,
just so good.
and I have never answered this question, and there I just told you to put it out into the world and made it maybe it'll happen. My dream, because I'm gonna name two magazines that you may know one, but I'm guessing you don't know the other. I
Yeah,
would
let me
love
know.
to be written up. I'm probably not going to get art in there. Maybe you can get art in there in either Oxford American
Oh yeah, geez, yeah.
or Garden and Gun. Have
Oh,
you ever heard of?
Garden and Gun. I
I'm
don't,
telling you,
I don't know Garden and Gun, but I'm looking up.
it is like the photography, the design. It is gorgeous. It
Really?
it is like high end Southern culture.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's
It,
really cool.
yeah.
Nice. Garden
Those
and gun.
garden
Yeah.
and gun.
Oh, nice. That's really cool. And so what would you want to be in there? Like
I,
your
as arrogant as it sounds to have an article written about, probably about the podcast or something. Like, I don't know that I would want my art in there because that's not kind of those magazines. Like,
right. I gotcha. Oh,
so,
that's cool. I love that. I love that.
so I had a podcast for a while called Southern Charm, where a
Okay.
buddy of mine, when
Nice. I
he
like the
was
name.
when he was 18 or 19, he moved from Florida to Minnesota, and he's 50 now.
Mhm.
So I would explain Southern culture to him,
Mm,
but it was all positive. And we
mhm.
did like we always started it and ended it with a Southern song
Oh, that's
by
great.
Southern artists. And it was rappers, it was whatever.
Yeah.
It was classical, it was whatever it was. But and then I would give him a recipe. He had never had pimento cheese.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever had pimento cheese?
Yes, I have, but
Okay.
not very often, you know.
Yeah. So I gave him the recipe for that, and he was just like, "This is amazing." I was like, "It is. It
Yeah,
is."
Southern food. Oh my
Yeah.
God, this is just
But
incredible.
I've thought about bringing it back. If I had more time, I would bring it back and just interview people about Southern culture.
Yeah, that's
Like,
cool. That would
yeah,
be really interesting. Yeah, and
yeah.
everyone's experience in the South, and I don't know.
But I would want to make it positive. Like
Um,
it's a I don't know. It's
yeah.
it it's hard to explain. Growing
Mhm.
up down here is completely different. And
Yeah.
it's in a good way and a bad way and in a
Mhm.
good way. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, well,
I don't
all
know.
parts of the world, all parts of culture, every culture has the good and the bad,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
definitely the Southern,
Yeah. Okay. We will go out. Here's the big last question I've started asking. If
Okay.
you could talk to the 14-year-old version of yourself, what would you tell them?
Oh, I love this question. Um, I think what I would tell them or myself at 14, and it's funny, like I say this a lot to my nieces, is like, don't worry too much about every little thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna fail, you're gonna have your heart broken, you're gonna aim for things and you're gonna miss, you are gonna say the wrong things, you're gonna make mistakes. And that's okay. That's like completely okay. That's part of being human. Just you know, like, keep your mind open and always be respectful and always be looking for ways to always be considerate about the people around you and your community um and learning and meeting new people and meeting people that are very different from you and learning from all different ways. But, just you know, and always like take into account when you do fail or make a mistake or do someone wrong, do someone dirty or whatever, like always consider after every situation, like, what was my part in this? Like, how can I grow? How can I learn? But just be okay with just, don't stress too much about,
Yeah.
just be okay with it and dust yourself off and move on, learn what you can and be aware that you can always do better, but be okay with it and move on,
I'm going to quote the poet laureate Rocky Balboa. Keep moving forward. There, he. I'm telling you, I'm a diehard Rocky fan,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
he made a film in I think it's '06, Rocky Balboa, and
Yeah.
it is a surprisingly touching film
Oh,
about growing old and he has a speech in it that I can almost do word for word, and it's keep moving forward. It's
yeah,
like life will beat you to your knees if you let it.
right,
It ain't about how hard you can get hit. It ain't about how hard you can hit, but about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
right.
So
Yeah,
I tell that to a lot of kids. I was like,
yeah,
I know everything feels like shit right now.
yes,
You got to
yes.
just keep pushing on because there's a reason why you're here. So
Yeah, it's not about like avoiding being knocked over. It's how you pick yourself up,
yeah,
like there's a lot of learning in that. There's a lot of learning and learning how to like brush your shoulder off and get up and keep going. It's just, there's a lot of like practice and strength that you learn from being okay with that and working through it. And it'll make you stronger for the next really difficult and challenging thing that comes along, because that's just part of life, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good thing to go out on. Thank you very much for being on.
Thank you so much. It was an honor to be part of your podcast, and thanks for having me on here. It's awesome. I love what you're doing. It's really cool.
It's not an honor. I'm an idiot. So no.
I love it.